have to laugh at the bad jokes.
Hello everybody, my name is Robert Baird, and tonight I'm going to be refuting Kenneth's claim that by California increasing its minimum wage will have negative effects on the economy. So Kenneth had three main secondary claims: that increasing the minimum wage will create job loss in California, that the rise in wages will increase the cost of living, and that the current legislation will create unexpected costs for state government and taxpayers. In response to his statements about increasing the minimum wage will create job loss, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, the opposite is actually true. In states that have increased their minimum wage, they've, over the past 5 years, have seen significant economic growth, and reduction in unemployment, and general increase in taxes and GDP. Additionally, Kenneth talked about a $5 million job loss that he associated with this increase in minimum wage. However, when I was looking into that statistic has little, if anything, to do with raising California's minimum wage. The statistic in question was from Ivana Kotasova, I think I'm pronouncing that word right, at CNN. While Kenneth connected these, her statement of 5 million jobs lost, they're really completely unrelated. What Ivana is discussing is job loss caused to middle-level management, not lower class, or not minimum wage jobs. And not only is Ivana not talking about the state of California, she's not even talking about the United States. She's talking about the planet as a whole. Leading me to question why this statistic is even related to, or in any way referring to, the minimum wage discussion. Finally, he mentions some proof that there will be a reduction in employment. He quotes a source from Michael Reich at the LA City Council in his report. However, what he did not make clear was exactly how small this reduction is projected to be. This is not a reduction by 5%, 10%, even 1%. This is a reduction by 0.1%. Not even to employment, but to projected unemployment. Why is this important? The fact projected unemployment is actually expected to rise in the next 10 years, about 3% per year. We're supposed to, California for the next 20 years is supposed to gain about 3% new jobs per year. By 2024, that's supposed to bring us an additional 2.5 million jobs, bringing us from the highest unemployment in the country to the lowest. Essentially, any decrease of 0.1% is lost in the overall large increase in employment. Kenneth's secondary claim was that the rise in wages will increase the cost of living. Now, to be fair, there is little to no consensus, according to Forbes, on the actual effects of minimum wage regarding to the cost of living. And that even when there are correlations and causations drawn, the results, for example, the example listed above, are often statistically insignificant. However, I did find one supporting source. It was, however, extremely bad and slanted. It went as far as calling the entire Democratic Party psychopaths, which, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's essentially someone who is too stupid to make their own decisions and follows someone blindly, which raises a few questions as to the validity of the source. I can't talk tonight, I'm sorry. Additionally, when Berkeley did research into the federal minimum wage increase, they found that in most cases, if not all, any increase in cost of living that could possibly be caused by the increase in the minimum wage is generally offset by the increased earnings of the wage. Cost of living is spread out among the entire population. Well, comparatively, only a relatively small to medium percent actually earn minimum wage. Which means that the effect, you don't raise the minimum wage by $5 and bring the cost of living up by $5. If it is increased at all, it's more than compensated for by the increase. His third claim was that the current legislation will create unexpected costs for the state government and taxpayers. Unfortunately, you can't argue with that. But you cannot use the law of unintended consequences to justify not doing something. There will always be unintended consequences. There's no argument there, there's no question. However, he did mention some specific consequences in this area. For example, he believed that there's a projected $3.6 billion government labor cost increase. However, when I did my research into the tax increases over the same time period, the taxes, even without the minimum wage factored in, were scheduled to increase by an additional $3 to $6 billion per year until 2020, more than covering any extended costs caused by additional payroll. Finally, he also mentioned that welfare costs would increase in the state. However, Berkeley, again, did a study on this and found that when the federal government raised the minimum wage to $10 an hour in 2012, they actually reduced the cost of the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program by about $4.6 billion, or 6% per year. I believe that a similar effect would occur if California were to raise their minimum wage. And that's it.
All right, structurally everything's good at the beginning. You get to the first point. There's not a lot of analysis of the evidence that the advocate is using, but you do have a lot of counter evidence that you present on your position that I think does a good job trying to address those issues. The one place where there is a specific response to the advocate's evidence is on this Ivanka Kachanova or Kachasoya or whatever their name is, who apparently was being quoted by the advocate suggesting that it was going to cost 5 million jobs. And you're saying that the quote was taken out of context, is talking about something completely different. So that would certainly be an appropriate response to a piece of evidentiary proof used by the advocate. The job loss issue gets discussed to some degree. You kind of suggest that this whole point that he's presented is irrelevant, at least when it comes to that evidence. I don't remember if there was other evidence on that particular point, and if there was, I think it probably deserves a response also. But then you've got a couple of good counterclaims suggesting that in the long run there's going to be an increase in the number of jobs, and whatever impact would be relatively small. All right. On the second point on the cost of living, you've got a nice piece of evidence that says there's no consensus. We can't really talk about what it's likely to be. You judge the quality of the evidence that's being cited because they refer to people as sycophants, suggesting that there's some bias there. Maybe that might be true. Validity is the word that you're looking for. And every once in a while people run into a problem with a word that's right in front of them that they've probably said 1,000 times the other way, and you just get stuck on it. That happens. Someday it'll happen to you. You'll be trying to say bibliography and you'll say and it'll just happen again. So don't worry about it. It's not that big a deal. We knew what you meant. The Berkeley study was okay on the other 2 points, and you did a good job kind of explaining the impact of your arguments for the most part. All right, 7 minutes and 23 seconds, a little long.